Everybody,
Why are you talking?
we are back. At least this episode is just me and Shane Presley. And if you want to know what we're talking about, you can go back and listen to the last episode because he does the intro. Otherwise, stay on and you can hear this whole thing. And I'm sure we'll be back to normal next week. So enjoy it. Check out Shane and his show coming up on July 23rd. And that's it. Yeah, it's the big show. All right, comes tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's akin to like a cerveza of some sort. Bombcast Jay, he brought it over. We recorded Tuesday night for this week. It was surprised that he came back because he didn't think he was going to be able to record it all this month because of kids' sports and stuff. Yeah. So I don't know if we'll like it. So here's cheers, man. But let's just jump in. So of course we are back. Well, how's it taste?
Like beer.
All right. Well, I guess that'll work. And you're not going to hear any of the familiar co-host voice that are out today because we're recording an abnormally early episode. Not the earliest episode I've ever recorded. I think that still goes to Rick Duree and Andrew Tesmer of the Beer Sauce Shop owners. I think we did an 11 a.m. episode one time because it was the only time they could get in when they were promoting, hey, we're no longer doing this mail thing of beer, we're opening a storefront. So that's been that many years ago. But 430's got to be the newest record. So that's a long-winded way of saying the reason we're recording early. One, I'm leaving town next week. And two, my guest is always busy. You've heard him on the show a million times. I think slightly more than Matt F. Basler, but we have to say never as funny. I mean, it's Matt, right? We still have to give Matt his credit, or he'll get mad at us.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that is the arch enemy to Matt F. Basler and the host of the ever popular and soon to be oldest can be Rock Paper Podcast. That's Shane Presley's across from me.
Hey, man, good to be back.
Yeah, we're gonna do some talking about some pop culture stuff. Which is always a good reason to come on because and I feel like this season in particular has a good music influence theme to it. So you're a good guy of Stranger Things. So we're going to dive into Stranger Things because you've seen it all, right?
Yeah.
And Jay, who we recorded this week, which will be, by the time we're recording this, hasn't been released yet, but he didn't watch it. So I couldn't talk with him. So when you texted, that's why I was like, well, if we can fit it in this week, let's fit it in because you don't want to wait too long to talk about these things. You want to give everybody a chance to watch it. But at this point, I used to be like the biggest a proponent of no spoilers. But at this point, with podcasts and the way they are, I'm like, fuck it. Let's talk about everything about it. So, but before we jump into all that, I did mention that your podcast is getting up there. Not necessarily in the years, even though you're about to be in your 8th anniversary.
Yeah, May was 8 years.
8 years, yeah. But more importantly, even a bigger milestone than that, because if you break down per year how many episodes, you're coming up on 1,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you've got a big show planned for it.
Yeah, so July 23rd at Off Broadway in St. Louis, Missouri, we're going to celebrate 8 years and 1,000 episodes of Rock Paper Podcast, and calling it the Big Show. I went with like a whole wrestling theme to it all. And,
yeah, the Big Show. When you first said the Big Show too, I was thinking back when Dan Patrick was the host of Sports. Yeah. Back when we were kids and Sports Center was like the thing. He would always lead in with "Welcome to the Big Show," and so. But yeah, your poster and your theme is fun.
All right. Yeah, I was like the whole. I don't know, for whatever reason, it got in my head that as I was booking all this stuff, and I kept saying it over and over, like, well,
that's the Big Show.
So.
Did you watch wrestling when you were younger?
Oh yeah.
I think my single favorite moment in the history of the Big Show, and he's had a lot of them. He was an entertainer, and I don't know we're getting on sidetrack, but this is what we do. Yeah. But you remember Val Venus, the great Valboski? Yeah. They do those little backstage vignettes, and Big Show was pissing at a urinal, and Val Venus walks up and gets up to the urinal, and he looks over and he goes, and they call you the Big Show. And so the Big Show beats the crap out of him in the bathroom. I'm like, no, that was the pinnacle of the Attitude Era. But anyway, that's the best wrestling joke I think ever written.
Yeah. So invited a bunch of friends from the show to help celebrate, and I have the Manis Brothers. I have Old Capitol Square Dance Club,
which is a great name, by the way.
Yeah. They've kind of like gone back and forth. I think at one time they were just kind of going by Old Capitol, and then now they've embraced the Square Dance Club again.
Well, it's a smart. It's like nobody calls Creedence Clearwater Revival,
right.
So it's a great name.
Yeah.
It works both ways.
Yeah.
Or Chicago Transit Authority.
Right.
They just
Yeah.
became Chicago.
Right.
So we're comparing them to the greats.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they'd like that.
Oh yeah, and Samantha Clemens, Ben Diesel, and Egan's Rats round out the lineup. So
I do have a question with you about. Well, before we get into the lineup, I do have a question with or without. Let's at least talk about show starts January 20 or July 23rd. Sorry, I forget what month we're in. 7:00.
yeah, music starts at 7, doors at 6.
And the if you buy tickets now, it's $10 or 14 day of.
Yeah.
But don't wait day of. Don't be that dipshit. It might sell out.
I think there's a $3 minor surcharge at the door, but it's all ages event. Yeah, so come on out.
Now I've got two questions for you before we move on past your show. One, how do you see all ages fans out there? I know you get people sometimes when we're out. I've been to concerts with you where people are like, "Oh, Shane," but do you? I know it's an all ages show because of the venue and things like that.
Right.
But do you see young kids? Are they listening to your podcast? Do you know?
I don't. I mean, based off of the analytics that I get, like it's all like 35 to 45 year
Yeah.
old men. But the show is open. I mean, like I don't know.
Hey, you got girl fans.
Yeah,
I've seen
right.
it.
I'm just saying primarily. But there's yeah. I mean, I don't think
You haven't come across some 9-year-old wearing a little Shaney
Right,
shirt yet, have you? Because that'd be awesome.
Right. My friend did buy shirts for her kids, but I don't think they listen. So, but
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's, I was more thinking of, that really hard demographic, that 16 to 18. I was,
Sure.
And I guess it for me, the question and the reason it's interesting, and you'd be the guy to talk to about it, because, you love the St. Louis music scene. You're probably the biggest supporter of local artists around here. So I wonder what it's like for that age group for the music scene. Like, are those kids going out and seeing shows? Are they? Because that seems like if they're the kids that are fans of shows, local artists,
Right.
they'd probably be fans of your show too.
I mean, I've had some of those. There's definitely been younger kids on the show plugging their music, and I'm sure their friends listen when they're on.
So it's probably the hardest part to grow though.
Right. Yeah, but I go to a lot of shows and support, and they're like, those guys, especially the young ones that when they're still in high school, they get all their friends to come out to events and stuff. So, Blueberry Hill's actually really been super supportive lately of a lot of these younger high school bands, and
I'm heading there with my daughter next month to see a band called Sunroom. Yeah. This band opened up for Louis Tomlinson, which is one of the One Direction members. We saw him for a pageant, and I dug the band and I watched from dad row up top. Yeah. My daughter was down in the pit dancing and all that good stuff. But I was sitting there with her, and they're they can't be more than 20 years old, 21 year old. They had this like really punky but West Coast punk kind of sound. And I was texting my daughter in between songs. I was like, I like this band. They're like a punk band, but they really sound like a California style, kind of like a little bit of poppy punk in that. Yeah. Almost like I said, if the Beach Boys wrote punk songs, that's what they'd sound like. Yeah. And then in the middle of the show, the guy goes, "We just want to thank you. This is our first major tour. It's really the first time we've ever left San Diego to go play." I'm like, "Well, there you go. It nailed it." Yeah. And so we're gonna go to the Blueberry or the Duck Room to go see that. Yeah. I'm excited about that. I haven't been back there since I went and saw Fishbone with my neighbor and Steve Ewing. And so it was us three watching Fishbone, which was pretty fun, and Steve's wife. Nice. But it was an awesome, and that was the first time Fishbone had been reunited. And also a little bit of a crime that Fishbone is in the Duck Room. They should at least be in Del Mar Hall, which wasn't open yet, or the pageant, because they're like monumentally influential. But still. But anyway, so yeah, that was thinking about the young kid thing, right. And it's cool that there is a venue out there doing it. But the other question I had as I was listening to your very funny. Animated poster was your lineup. Like, you've got on this lineup, and you've done this in the past, very different types of music all together in one.
Right.
Now, again, this is the thought process about, is it just some people that you feel like you want to get some more exposure or feel like they're a perfect fit? Do you take like 12 bands and whittle it down?
Well, this one in particular was kind of also difficult because it was, kind of a late booking. So that was, that made complicated things a little bit. But I figured the date was open. I was going to make the best of it, and I called on a bunch of friends, and people showed up for me. And but also, like all these people, I do believe that either if you don't know their names, you should.
Yeah.
And, but also, and we haven't done a birthday party since 19. I did one at Broadway Oyster Bar. And
and the next year was COVID.
Right.
So.
And then but in 19, I tried to cater it more to like a specific sound. It was more like a blues rock thing.
Yeah, that was a lineup filled with kind of the same sound, and that's why I wanted to ask you about this one because. And I think fans of your show are going to come out, but in terms of people that are coming out to see the artists, I always wonder if there's a fear like I've got this more hip hop influenced style and this more bluegrass style. Is some of their fans not going to want to come out because the bluegrass person's there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's I'm hoping that I think I've always kind of got a pretty good reaction. Like when I've done this in the past, like people are like. Well, I probably wouldn't have gone to see this, hip hop group, because it's not really my thing. But the fact that they're here and I'm like, I enjoy what they're doing. So that's like,
well, that's the best way to look at it too. You're bringing more fans that otherwise wouldn't give that other fan. But one of the great things about you, and it's one thing that why you get so much love from the local music is because I think, and I'm putting words in everyone else's mouth that knows you. I think the great thing about you is the way I see you and the way you put out in the world is you don't think about, well, what happens if people, you think about, one, like you said, these are names people should know, and two, maybe it will open up a world of music for someone else, and that's the way you approach it, and I think that comes across when you have a lineup like that.
I hope so. I mean, like, I want people to open their mind to a little bit more just different music. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff going on, but like, so this lineup in particular, Egan's Rats is like a hip hop.
Yeah, and they sound cool.
Yeah,
I checked out everybody after I saw your poster.
They're a lot of fun, really talented group of guys, and Ben Diesel's kind of more pop punk influenced. Then we got Samantha Clemens is kind of more folk R&B songwriter, and Old Capitol Square Dance Club's kind of got a little country rock and roll thing, kind of a Rolling Stones kind of thing at times. It's like and then Mass Brothers is kind of like this kind of like a hard, gritty, heavy blues kind of sound.
Now they were. I don't know how. I guess I can ask you this too. Are they going to be considered the headliner?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're the first ones you mentioned on the poster. Now, do you determine who's the headliner just by? How do you figure that one out?
I mean, there's really no proper headliner.
Yeah. It's just
I would say they're the headliner because they're going to go on last.
Everyone's getting equal time. There's not 5 bands getting 10 minutes and one band getting 40. It's everybody's getting. How long does everybody get play?
45-minute sets.
Each person? Yeah. So you're going to go till midnight.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good show for the price.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but the only reason I'm really putting them on last is because they're probably the loudest and
let people get nice and
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're I mean, I love them, but they're definitely not for everybody. If you're like, some of the older crowd maybe or whatever it is, I don't know, but maybe they will love them. I don't know, but
their sound was awesome, and you lead off the poster with that, and they sound great.
Right, but they like to crank it up loud and like and
they go up to 11. Their Spinal Tap.
Yeah, and but no, they're like so they're kind of people might think like a Black Keys kind of thing because they are just a duo, two brothers obviously, and they play just guitar and drums, but they make a lot of noise for two
Takes
people.
a lot of talent to be I mean there's been a slew of them throughout the years from Local H to to the White Stripes to like you said, the Black Keys. But speaking of Black Keys, you listen to the new album, new songs?
The single. I haven't heard the album.
I haven't listened to the album yet either, but I dig the single. I mean, I don't. You and I have had failed attempts at go seeing them together.
Yeah.
I don't think that they can do any wrong.
All right.
I think they're just
love them,
fucking great.
I liked. There was a little promo video that just popped up with David Cross. Did you see that?
I didn't see that one.
I'll show you afterwards.
I'll have to check it out.
It's funny.
I love David Cross. So yeah, I mean, again, I talked about the monumental number that is 1,000 episodes, but I mean, 8 years, 1,000 episodes. Any slowing down after it?
I feel like this year I've probably been the slowest. I mean, like I think I only did like 3 episodes in June.
Yeah, when you used to do 3 episodes a week pretty consistently, but that's not bad though.
Well,
I mean,
and also part of that was booking this because I didn't want to go past 1,000 prior to having an event. So I was trying to.
So what is the plan for the episode versus the event?
I don't know. Like I'm still kind of working out the details. I was thinking it might be fun just to record the whole concert and kind of share that as the event or as the 1,000th episode and something like that with maybe some other stuff mixed in there. But I don't know. I've been still.
You have the ability.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a little bit of time. So.
Right. But I was. Yeah, just nice to have the options. But I just wanted to. I thought it'd be appropriate time now to throw a party. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you. I mean, we've got a lot of crossover friends, and we joke about your mortal enemy. And I can tell you specifically because of you, I've met a handful of people doing this podcast that I consider friends now too. So, whatever you're doing on that first 1,000 episodes, which is. It's still just staggering every time you say it. And what we talked about with all these teenagers doing shows and being bands, and let's just hope there's a steady stream of people to keep talking to for another 1,000 after.
I mean, I just did one last week. Met another new person. There's no shortage of people. It's like I say, new bands starting all the time. So I don't think there's any slowing down. I think I'll constantly have. More people to talk to, and then new records being recorded all the time.
I'll before we jump into pop culture, because I do, you so often you come on here and we talk about whether it was the Christmas drive or a show or your singer-songwriter when you started launching that, and we spend a lot of time on that. And I think a lot of people who are listening to this that know you probably hear you talk a lot about music or other podcasts or people, but we'll get into just having fun and talking about pop culture, but. One question I want to ask, in your opinion, and I'm not talking about the people that you've talked to that already have a small modicum of fame, like Steve Ewing, who's obviously has already been there and done that by the time he talked in the show, but who do you think is the person that went from the most unknown to the most unknown in your first 1,000 episodes?
Oh, man.
I mean, because you've had a bunch of diverse groups of people, and I imagine some have went on for some radio play and some.
I mean, one name that comes to mind is when they were first on the show was a group called Clockwork, and then they changed their name to Hounds, and they went on to quite a bit of success. They went on Top Golf had like some kind of band. Talent show thing, and they represented the Chesterfield location, and they got like Dee Schneider was one of the judges.
Oh, that's cool.
And they got to but they won the whole show, and they got a recording contract with BMG, I think, and so they got some really nice things, and so I think they're one that.
Did you have them as both Clockwork and Hounds on the show?
Yeah, like I said, I've been following them since they were.
Yeah.
They were like, I think when they first did the show, they were like 16 and 18.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they somewhere around there, whatever it was. I've been following them for 10. It was probably 10 years or more now, and then but they did the show and early on, but. Great young guys, and
you had you one of the guys that again, and that's awesome that you saw that all the way up to that. But you've even had you had Nallman on your show, and I know you're a big fan there, and
his career blew. I mean, he's always been
he was
big, but
his name recognition and known was good for him,
right.
But it's cool though that you've had like we mentioned, Ewan and Allman. You've had the guys that have success and go on and still doing stuff, and then you've had guys like Clockwork, now Hounds, and you've got, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are out there touring a lot now that you see too that have been started on your show doing just local stuff. So it's super awesome. That's got to be one of the coolest things to see.
Yeah.
And I guess we should also say too, for those that don't know Shane, it's not just music. You have stand-ups. You have other podcasters. I've been on a couple of times. There's all kinds of stuff. That
actually, this week, today's or yesterday when episode is. Lady named Ellie runs the Gentle Barn. It's like an animal rescue for these like farm animals and stuff. So it was kind of fun to talk something completely out of my comfort zone. You know, talking about what her work and stuff.
Ellie Lax, L-A-K-S. I didn't see that. It's been a busy week for me. I didn't see new podcasts go up this week.
But I just went out late last night. But yeah, it was like, but so that was so again like I'm open to talking to anybody. I like meeting new people all the time, but that was the first really like kind of getting into that world of so.
Well, we're going to transition off. Well, before we do though, July 23rd off Broadway, 7:00.
Yep.
$10 in advance. Do that.
OffBroadwaySTL.com for tickets.
Yeah, OffBroadwaySTL.com. $14 day of. $3 minor surcharge for all you pups out there. Yeah. You're going to see 5 great bands. Name them again one more time.
You got the Manis Brothers, Old Capitol Square Dance Club, Samantha Clemens, Ben Diesel, and Egan's Rats.
And go check out all of them too before you go to the show. 7 to midnight. You're going to have a blast. And I didn't make one joke about Ben Diesel's name through that whole thing. Because I listened to his music. He sounds like a talented person, so I wanted to respect him. Yeah. But man, that's a tough one. That is a tough one to hold off on. That was hurting my head the entire time. Only because Vin Diesel has released a lot of music of his own, and it's truly awful. Right. So he's the better version of it. So, but speaking of rock, let's transition to what we can start with this because it might be the most metal scene in the history of TV. We're going to jump into Stranger Things.
You're going to go right to that?
We're going to go right to that, and then we'll digress back, and I'm just going to ask you some questions about the show as a whole. But as a guy who's a music fan, and as a guy like myself who grew up fancying himself a skateboarder in the late 80s, early 90s, and a Metallica fan since the Kill 'Em All days, how fucking awesome was that scene in that and we're referring to Eddie being the distraction while shredding to Master of Puppets.
Eddie the Freak.
The Freak.
Yeah. That was a very iconic scene. I mean, especially Master of Puppets, great song. And now I saw like it's charting on all the charts again after 25 years.
Just like Kate Bush. Kate Bush is still number 1, but it went and shot up to number 9 in like 2 days.
Yeah. But I think like the same thing, like, speaking of that, with Kate Bush, like that song, that moment was like the first part. That was like that pivotal scene, and it's such an incredible scene too. Like I'm really like heavy watching that because like, like the kind of the, I mean, for as much as for Stranger Things, but like the metaphor of like that your favorite song can like pull you out of whatever hell you're in. Yeah. And I felt that way about a lot of music. Music's always been there to when I needed it, and so like to see it like visualized like that was really well done, and I think that's why that song resonated so much. I mean, it's a fun, catchy song, but I think that seeing it all play out like that really connected with a lot of people.
And along those lines too, I don't think it's an accident. In fact, I think the Duffer Brothers, and they've got a lot of projects coming up, one being The Talisman, which was what Lucas was reading to Max in the hospital. So they've got a lot of things that they do well, and I don't think it was an accident that they took a character, Eddie, who was the ringleader for the Dungeons and Dragons, which at the time the show was set in was considered a demonic, a poison on society. That character was completely misunderstood by the rest of the town, and little do they know that this misunderstood misfit who played D&D, who quote unquote worshiped Satan, used metal, which was also the devil's music, to save everybody. I think, like you said, like the comparisons that they used throughout the whole show, and then honestly, just as the music they've chose overall, because up until this season, for those that don't know, this is the penultimate season. Next season is the last season. So this season was definitely a mood shift. There's always been stakes. There's always been stuff. But all the music has been, and I apologize to the band that does this, it's been that 80s Atari synth pop kind of music, and it's always been good.
Right.
But this was a year they were like, I don't know if it was like Netflix is like, well, here, you guys got a blank checkbook.
Yeah.
Just go do what you want. But waiting till the most important season, and I'll go ahead and say it right now, I consider it the best season, and that's big words because every season's great. But the most important season at the turning point in all these kids' life, to use music to outline what was going on. And like I said, I know we jumped to the final episode because it was, I think there's been articles written that it might be the greatest single scene in TV, especially in the streaming era.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It might be the most metal scene of all time. And it's certainly, all of that is wrapped around the most, heroic comeuppance for a character that had been misunderstood through the whole thing. And the guy, Joseph Quinn, who's British, I believe he's British. I know he's English, British, something like that. He knew how to play it. He learned how to play it for the scene. And I saw that, Metallica came out and said, man, his fingers were moving perfect. He did it. He nailed it. And so there's a whole generation of 80s kids that learned how to play guitar to that song. And for this guy to know how to do it, offered a little bit more credibility to it. But so after I've done polished the knob of the Duffers in that scene, I already said it was my favorite scene, or my favorite season, and we can talk about why. But as a whole, what do you think about this season?
Everything you just said. I loved it. I thought it was really well done. I've been a fan of the whole series, but this, I don't know. I think part of it had to do with like 3 years off. I was anticipating a lot, and you just got excited when it was finally back around. And but the whole high school 80s, like all of it kind of come together perfectly in the soundtrack. I listened to the soundtrack a bunch at work, just listening to the music because it's a great soundtrack. But like I said, that wasn't really there before. But really, it was fun to hear the collection of songs and but I thought they did a great job. I thought Eddie was a huge addition to the cast this year.
I said it on this show. I think I said it on the show, and I've certainly said it to everyone who will listen to me talk about it. I don't know that a show, and again, everybody throughout the history of the show gives me shit for the hyperbole that I often spew, but I don't know that two writers have ever, in TV, ever given us so many characters every season that we enjoyed.
Right.
They just keep adding people, and even when they're bad guys like Jason or even Billy, they do their job well. Mm-hmm.
I forget the guy his name, but the jock guy.
That's Jason.
Yeah, Jason. Yeah.
There's also some cool things, Easter eggs in the season too. So you know how Jason dies in this episode. Again, spoiler warning, but fuck it, it's what we're doing. So him and Lucas have this epic fight. The only problem I have with the season is he beats Lucas up when he hits him that many times in real life. But it still makes for a great episode, or great season, or great scene. But when Jason's on the ground and the split happens, it cuts him right in half. Well, earlier in the season when Lucas was drinking, Jason says it feels like it's ripping you in half, right? So he's foreshadowed his own death earlier in the season, which they do cool stuff like that all the time. But yeah, Eddie, and what's so fun to me as a guy who loves sports, played sports, also had the artistic side, and honestly grew up loving Dungeons and Dragons. It's so weird that we are to the day and age to where, and I think it's less about hipster popularity or counterculture, or I think it's less about that, more about if you truly write a guy well, no matter what that character's about, people will like it. And so a Dungeons and Dragons nerd from the 80s become the most beloved character on TV this year, just cracks, because Eddie was not a great guy. Like, he wasn't a bad guy, but he was a drug dealer. He bullied his group. But he was misunderstood and he was loved. And well, that's, I mean, as a guy that loves writing as well and has a lot of friends who are writers, I don't know that you could. Everyone should be jealous over a person's ability to create a character like his and have it be accepted by everyone. There's jocks out there that hate Dungeons and Dragons are like, yeah, Eddie's awesome.
Yeah, man. Really well done.
I think one of the other things too about what we talked about with the music and the difference in this season. I think one of the things, and it's what I'm going to ask you about next, is we've seen the Demogorgon, essentially 2 seasons in a row, basically. Then we saw the Mind Flayer in 3, and we were led to believe that the Mind Flayer is the big bad. Even this season, as we were going, we were under the impression that Vecna won. Or Henry, however you slash, like the jokes that they even use,
right.
That Vecna was just the chosen acolyte for the Mind Flayer because Vecna had the ability to reach through the rift into the other world. But then by the end of it, which is where I'm going with this, by the end of it, we find out that Vecna, one is the big bad. I think the reason I like this season so much, and the reason they use the music, and the reason we really relate to the high school. The kids are growing up, and it's the perfect time to reveal the big bad. And I think because the big bad was actually is someone with 11's powers and someone that was a real person, I think it got a lot more weight. And the Mind Flayer obviously was supposed to be scary, but I think Vecna's scarier. We know that there's now reasons behind it. It's not like a mindless animal doing what it's doing. It wants revenge, and it hates people. I think... Man, I tell you again, going back to the tooting the horn for their writing, is they tied this writing all the way up, and I even read an Easter egg where like when Billy got possessed, there were 4 chimes on a clock then. So they've been doing this isn't an accident,
right?
So what do you think of what do you think the whole one Vecna Henry thing?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that played out really nicely. The whole. Backstory and especially like linking it back to 1,
Yeah.
So you kind of got an idea like that this has been going on for many years before, obviously with the rest of the kids and all the other story that they were sharing and stuff. So, but yeah, I just thought that played out really nicely. And especially like we had already got some previews of that scene in the Rainbow Room and stuff like. Another season. So like when it all like kind of came together with young 11 and stuff like that I thought that was pretty nice tying it, bringing it all together.
They even gave us a good job this season during the season. Certainly, I'm not one of those guys that told you he nailed Sixth Sense from the very beginning, like what was going on in that movie. And I certainly in this season, I assumed that the intern was going to be a bad guy, but I didn't expect him to be 1, and I certainly didn't expect 1 to be Henry.
Right.
I didn't expect him to be the kid.
Right.
And along with that, how they did a great job for 5 of the 9 episodes, 6 of the 9 episodes, of letting it seem like 11 was the one that killed all the students.
Right.
Almost like, oh man, maybe 11, she is dangerous. But no, I mean, it was him the whole time, and I thought that was really well done. There is some criticisms for people. I certainly, 1, I can understand the biggest criticism of this season, but 2, think that they need to, just shut their pie holes. And I want to get your thoughts too. The biggest criticism is the Hopper story felt unnecessary, people said. Like, you didn't need Hopper's part of the story in order to accomplish anything this season. Did you enjoy the Hopper part?
Yeah, I mean, I think with any of this, like, the fact that they drug it out as far as they did, there was a lot that could have easily been cut. I still, I like the Hopper character.
David Harbour's chews up scenery as him. He's great. And now he's in shape. He's not the tubby guy. They really gave you a sense that he's been tortured there.
And we got a lot more Yuri and what's the
comedian, I forget his name, that speaks, who's the best thing on the screen every time he's on the screen.
Yeah.
Because he does karate now.
Right. Yeah.
He actually whoops people's ass a little bit.
But all those, like, there's a lot of great dialogues and things back and forth between all those guys. Like
the two new Russian characters,
yeah.
and I guess we're going to see the Russian come back as the guard,
yeah.
as a member of the group. I don't know.
So I don't know that it's like completely pointless, but like I agree that it could have easily been trimmed. But I think like there's still some good on-screen stuff with him.
I think that, and a lot of people said that the last episode could have been shorter. Here's the deal. Pause it halfway through and you got 2 1-hour episodes and be quiet.
Yeah.
There's no reason. I mean, look, just because Netflix did invent binge watching doesn't mean you have to binge watch everything. And you could have come. So I don't like hearing that, but I also don't like hearing the argument that it was pointless because, one, we knew Hopper was going to stay alive.
Right.
We knew it from the very end when they showed the teaser. At the end of it, the post-credit scene, we knew that there was going to be a way that they had to get him back. This made sense. Getting him back this way made sense. Like it was, if for no other reason, excuse me, I burped mid-sentence there. If for no other reason, it was just a story of him getting back. I do agree with them to say that, them destroying all the shadow inside of all of the Demogorgons, that was like a stretch. They could have just said they can't let these Demogorgons out because they know the weight of what they can do. So that doesn't bother me. I mean, that was the part of it that I was like, that's not a good reason for him. They could have just made it, hey, over the years I've become a hero. I still need to be a hero. But like you said, every character was likable. Hell, even Winona Ryder is likable in it. She's great. So you had to get him back. You have to get them all back together before the final season, the final showdown.
Right, that's the thing. It definitely felt like there was they were all in groups. They were all spread out all over the world.
Yeah.
And
that was the other criticism too, is people were like Will and Jonathan and Mike were pointless, and there was a lot of people said we know Will's going to come out as gay, but they're dragging it out. Okay, so what? Some of the stuff that happened with them, you got Argyle, you got a cool action sequence with the military. So what? Yeah. It's good TV. Even if you think that it made for a longer season, quit your bitching.
Yeah.
You're getting to see one of the greatest sci-fi fantasy shows of all time.
Right. I don't know. I think with social media and everything else, everybody just got an opinion and everybody wants to shit on everything. It's like nobody's ever happy with, like, it could be the greatest thing and people are still going to be able to pick it apart for whatever reason. It's like, I just take it for what it is. It's entertaining, and I had a good time watching it. And
my only real nitpicking criticism isn't that it is just more like my suspension of disbelief. I know we're already talking about a sci-fi show, and we're talking about the military involved, but everybody leaving or not leaving Hawkins at the end made no sense, especially when they were gathered on the hill and they seen all the smoke and the fire or the red coming up. If that was going on the whole time, it's impossible to hide from the America, with an earthquake. So that was kind of silly, but it made for a cool an Avengers pose.
all right.
So I'm okay with it in a sense, but Hawkins be gone. There's very little Hawkins left after this. And if it's going to be the epicenter of this final battle, and I trust them, like that, the way it ended with that scene and them watching, it almost feels like, well, is season 5 just an entire fight there in Hawkins? Because it's already open. They're already together. How are they going to, because they got to create some kind of division, and then everybody's got to reunite for a big win at the end. There's got to be some kind of Hail Mary win. So again, that's just nitpicking. That's just super nitpicking. I do like kind of they kind of did a little bit of this all started with Will being abducted, and now that he's back in Hawkins, Will can still feel Vecna, and I'm like, so Will's gonna, and for those that were like, well, they weren't very important this season. Will's going to be important again next season. Duffer Brothers haven't ignored one character. They may have looked like it, but again, with the chimes and all the stuff, I feel like they're slow playing and they're not ignoring them. Just wait and see where it goes. And, speaking of Matt, Basler being on, we've been on this show before, and he and I had talked about people's reactions to like, well, I don't know that they need to do this, or oh, that's shitty because of this. Just, hey, when it's all said and done, then judge it. Like he even said, he goes, people kind of like rush to jump to conclusions or rush to nitpick before the entirety of the story's out. Can we just appreciate good writing and wait for it to end? But
Right.
it was so. How do you feel about the season as a whole compared to the others? Do you think this is the best one?
In my opinion, yeah, I think it's my favorite. I think it's really well done, well written, and yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next.
Now, I am going to cheat here because I'm in an episode the next episode of my show, the 266 that does drop as we're recording this a little bit later today. I pulled the same segue from Stranger Things to Doctor Strange. You had said you recently watched that as well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dive into it, but I really want to hear your thoughts on that because that's been a bit of a polarizing movie for the MCU because it was the most vastly different. And you saw it on Disney Plus, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I'm glad that I just watched it on Disney Plus. I think it was entertaining. It was fun. It had some good moments. I think ultimately I was disappointed. I think. Maybe.
Now, were you surprised or did you know who the big bad was going into watching it?
I didn't know exactly what was going on. There's a couple of them I haven't watched.
But I mean, you didn't know Wanda was going to be the sole villain of the.
No. I'd watched WandaVision, but I didn't watch. But I didn't know that exactly what direction they were going to take this.
Yeah.
But
Well, even those that did watch, and me and Jay talked about this last week, even those people that did watch WandaVision, you still didn't know that this was the direction they were going to take it.
so I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of like repetitive in a sense. Like, it was a lot of just Wanda, like, give me my kids and
Killing people.
Yeah, like, so it was just like kept like going.
It didn't feel like a very long story.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like, because it starts with the dream, and then there's no break. It's just them on the run.
Right.
Like there's no regrouping at any point. There's no downtime at any point. It's just almost constant. Now, I want to ask you: are you a Sam Raimi fan, like as a whole?
I don't know a ton of his work. I know Evil Dead, but that's maybe about it.
You just know of him.
I know he did Spider-Man also,
Yeah.
and
So sorry for the redundancy for this last episode. The last times we've talked about this, but I'm a massive Sam Raimi fan. And when you are a big Sam Raimi fan, if you've seen all his movies, you have to be. You have to know certain things are going to happen. The close-up, agitated camera shots, like when the demons were attacking Wanda, the spirits, and the real zoom in and out on the faces, and the crazy 360 jittery camera thing. That's going to happen. The weird looking zombies are going to happen. And when I had went and seen this at the theater, I left the theater disappointed. And then I told people I waited a few days and I liked it more. And what I liked about it was the Sam Raimi stuff. Like, it's a Sam Raimi movie and I love Sam Raimi movies. And I watched it again this past week, just like you. And I got to tell you, I went from my rating on this movie was like a 3 out of 5 using our scale, 3, and then it went up to like a 4 because I love Sam Raimi, and I watched it again, and we only give grades in increments of a quarter, so I don't want to give it a 2.75, but I might give it a 2.95 and break my own code. I don't even know it's quite a 3. Like I told Jay, I'll probably never watch it again, and that's too bad because he's going to be kind of the next Iron Man. In which Iron Man 2 kind of sucked. So maybe this is what we should do.
I also kind of felt like, being Multiverse of Madness, like that we might get more multiverse than 3, right?
Yeah, they really the most multiversity part was just quick blinks through everything.
And I was like, they showed you possibilities, the paint and the pixelated.
Yeah, cool stuff. I mean, fun stuff that you wouldn't want to spend a lot of time on, but still.
It would have been like just kind of funny or at least entertaining to pop into like some of the couple different things, like more than the 3 that they pretty much the settings for the whole film. So there was, I don't know, I just feel like there could have been more of that. There could have been a little bit more in the story, but I don't know. Yeah, just I did like probably my favorite part was Bruce Campbell, a cameo. That was I thought I was.
I haven't seen it yet, but there's an extended scene with him more than what he did in and again, being a massive Sam Raimi fan, I always love Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
But that whole final post-credit scene where he's done beating himself up,
Right.
that is a nod to Evil Dead 2, to where his hand gets possessed and beats the shit out of himself. So there's the things in there that make me love this film.
Sure.
But again, overall, it was disappointing. Now, you said you haven't seen the whole of the MCU. Unfortunately, I'm like a comic book degenerate. I consume it like it's crack. Are you going to watch Love and Thunder?
I'd like to, yeah. I mean, I didn't watch there's only a couple I've missed. I haven't I haven't watched Loki.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
need to watch that series.
Did you watch Hawkeye?
No.
Oh, see, now that's my favorite of the Disney Plus.
Like I said, there's a couple but I watched WandaVision. I watched a couple. I don't think I've ever actually watched Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, that's the best one.
So I need to go back and watch
You need to watch that before Love and Thunder because every once in a while they do something. There's you feel like there's a big step forward in the MCU. Like you've seen them. We had a lot of good movies, and then they brought in James Gunn to do Guardians. We're like, well, this is different. This is a big step forward. And then they brought in Taika Waititi to do Ragnarok, which is amazing. Well, before that, they even brought in the Russo brothers for Civil War or Winter Soldier, and that led to them doing Endgame and Infinity War. But yeah, you have to check out Ragnarok.
Yeah. I've been trying to catch up a little bit because I did want to watch some of these other newer movies, and I feel like I need to, it's all connected, obviously. So
yeah.
I need to do my homework before.
Yeah, the only thing I will say about Love and Thunder is just do Ragnarok first and you don't have to do everything else. You don't even, you wouldn't even have to really do Endgame, but it's Taika Waititi's sense of humor and everything is just right at my wheelhouse. I don't know if you've watched it, but we've talked about it on this show. His I don't know why I'm blanking of it. Pirate show on HBO Max it's so good, and it's the most gay show on TV. I mean, it's hilarious, but he's awesome. He's the voice of Korg, also the big rock guy that's going to be in Love and Thunder, and he's in Ragnarok, and so if you're going to do any of it, give that a chance, and then also watch Hawkeye. I think Hawkeye's the single best show they did on Disney Plus. Now I'm telling you all this. Find the time to do your 1,000 episode, your 1,00001 episode, your work. So you got to do it. I don't know how I do it sometimes, but see, every once in a while, you just gotta sit down and just shotgun some stuff.
Sure. Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know. There's especially lately. So Stacy's working evenings.
For those that don't know, your wife.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of she's working 6P to 6A.
Oh boy.
So there's a lot of nights where I'm just at home and I'll get. That's when I get hold. We'll actually watch what I want instead of her watching the shows we watch together or watching whatever she wants.
What is your shows you guys watch together? What's the big ones? Because you're fairly in touch with pop culture. What's the big ones?
We just we started Big Brother the other night.
I haven't watched it. I never watched. I do watch all the MTV stuff, the Challenge and all that, but I don't watch Big Brother.
Which we started Challenge. Which they brought in all the
USA.
Yeah.
That was last night.
Right.
So that's my night tonight.
We watched that also, and which this is the first time I really got into Challenge, but I like that they brought in all the people from the other.
All the other CBS properties, Paramount properties. Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. Now, do you guys ever consume together shows like other big, pop culture bending shows like that hit the map, like Yellowstone and things like that? Mm-hmm. Or is there any of them that you guys ever sat down and watched together? Well, Stranger Things, obviously. Did she watch that?
Not this season. In the past we have, but she acted like she wasn't too interested, but she said she will.
Well, she always seems like a nice girl, but you have to leave her then.
Right, yeah. We watch like I don't know, Chicago Fire and PD, and we watch those shows.
I'm not. Don't think I'm judging. She comes across as a very CBS drama lover.
No,
we know drama. That's TNT, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think we actually like years ago was like CSI Miami.
Oh yeah. I don't even know who does Chicago Fire, so I'm just throwing shit out there. Like
that's NBC, but we haven't watched the CBS shows.
Well, what I mean by that is it's funny too because it's weird. We're almost to the point in life where like if someone does say, "Oh man, I really watch Blue Bloods or Chicago Fire or something," you're like, "Oh, I forget there's network TV.
Yeah, right.
I forget that's a real thing because I have Paramount and I have." There's those jokes on the internet that like the Captain Planet thing, and it's Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, and they combine, and I'm the same price as cable. It's but yeah, that's funny. Man, no, does she work 5 days a week, or is her schedule like 4 days, or?
It rotates.
I mean, because with her working overnight and you work when you do, and then doing a lot of the music shows you do, like what you guys like hang out from like 7 in the morning till 9 in the morning? Is that your hangout time?
Well, I'm working 6 to 4, so there's so we like sometimes we eat a dinner together, and then she goes right to work, and something like that. But so it's kind of weird sometimes, but.
I joke too because I do see when you guys do things together on there and stuff.
But like so right now, she gets a 3-day weekend every other weekend. So those
that makes more. That's what I was gonna go.
And I get 3-day weekends also every weekend. So like every other weekend, we get to do all kinds of fun stuff together. So
well, let people know too because like I said, we wanted to give a peek behind the curtain that is Shane Presley. So when you're not recording 1,000 episodes, or going to 1,000 concerts, or watching Stranger Things, and the wife's not working, what do you guys usually? What's a fun weekend for you guys? A getaway or?
Well, we're kind of like right now we've been saving up because we're going to Florida in September, so that's our big trip. But
just like any family down there, or just going for you, just you two?
Her brother lives in Jacksonville, and we're picking him up along the way to. We're going. Part of this was all booked around. Me and Sean are going to see Chili Peppers in Orlando.
Oh, you told me about that. Yeah. You told me about that once when I was talking to you last time.
Right. So we're and then we're gonna vacation for the week in Daytona.
That's awesome. Did you ever watch The Good Place?
No.
Oh, there's a character on The Good Place named Jason who's from Jacksonville, Florida, and anytime anyone now that show was so good, and I don't know that there's a show that's ever stuck the landing as good as they did. But anytime someone says that they are going or they're from Jacksonville, I think of Jason on there, who's like the biggest Jacksonville fan of it. And when he was before he had died and went to The Good Place, Blake Bortles was still alive, so no one had the heart to tell him that Blake Bortles had moved on from the Jaguars. Yeah. But well, that'll be fun. That'll be a good trip.
Yeah. But other than that, we like going out to the movies. We like trying new spots or restaurants and whatever.
Now I know we do different podcasts a little bit. I mean, we both still focus on certain things that overlap. But do you ever get the urge to like you're going to go to this road trip? You guys driving or flying?
Yeah, we're going to drive.
Yeah, we're doing that to Denver. We're leaving at 3 a.m. Saturday morning and driving straight through the Denver. It's going to be the longest drive I ever did with my girls, and I have 2 daughters and a wife, obviously, and I'm not looking forward to it. But that's beside the point. But do you ever have the urge to just do an episode like you get back in town, like, you know what, the first fucking episode I'm going to review the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert. It's very not what you do, but I feel like going to Orlando to see them is worth talking about for an episode.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll come up and we'll probably do something. I mean,
like take the guy that goes with you and you guys talk about your experience. I mean, it's also a cheap way to do an episode. Trust me, when I come back, I came back from New York. I spent an entire half an episode talking about New York. Right. So,
yeah, I don't know. It's like typically for me, it's like a lot of my life comes up in episodes with my guests. Like, it's hard for me to just sit and talk about it by myself.
Yeah, you don't force any. You don't force yourself. I mean, listen, all me and my guys do is force our personal lives into the fucking episode sometimes. But you just let it come up, which is great, and it works. But I'm like, just being the music theme, I'm like, that's a big deal. Like,
Sure.
like if I were to ever go to see the Rolling Stones, I would. That there's not going to be much chances to talk about a Rolling Stones concert. Not that the Red Hot Chili Peppers are that age, but. They're still getting up there too, and that's a pretty epic trip to go see.
Right.
Really,
like, we picked Orlando because he lives down there, and he's a huge fan. So
yeah,
that was why it made sense to go that way instead of him. They were only doing like Nashville or Chicago, and I was like, well, at least if we can go down there, we can get a beach vacation out of it also.
Yeah.
So.
You planned your vacation around a Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
You're very, very Shane Presley of you.
Also our anniversary is that week.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's our first night down there. Will be
How many years?
That'll be our 8th anniversary.
Awesome.
Married, so.
Yeah. How long you been together?
Another 5 on that.
So, 13 years. That's I would tell you that's the same me as my wife, but I always get it wrong. I know my oldest daughter's 12, and I think we were together 2 years before she was born. I have no clue. I could just tell you, like, she was born in 2010. I think we started. I'm pretty sure we got married in 2009. Right. So I just know the day. You just don't ever miss the day. You know what I mean?
Sure.
What about let's tie it back into stuff going on. And I don't just mean for those that don't know and don't follow Shane on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and we'll give out socials at the end. You always do a great job of throwing out what concerts are coming up. But any big concerts St. Louis wise coming up that you're looking forward to? Like big acts coming through?
Honestly, I haven't really been paying too much attention. Nothing really on my radar. But most of the time when they're at that level, like it's hard for me to get too excited. There's only a couple bands that I really like. We mentioned Black Keys, and I'll go see them a lot of times. I don't think I'm going to hit this year's though, because it's at the amphitheater, and I'm just like, it's hard for me to get excited to go sit in the grass or to spend a couple
that much
bucks
on the seats. Yeah.
And
did you end up going and seeing Chris Rock? You texted me about that. How was that?
It was good. It was a fun show.
Sorry to get you sidetracked, but I just remembered you had texted me, and I was out of town on that.
But it was, it was an interesting experience, being that it was my first time actually having to lock my phone up.
Because they do that. Right. They don't like any chance for anyone recording.
Yeah. You keep your phone, but you got to put it in this pocket, and it's and then you have to if you go to the lobby or whatever, they can unlock it and whatever. But
so they unlock your phone on the way out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's just does that make it adds time getting in and out, right?
It really
or is it just so smooth?
And we also I was given tickets, and they were in VIP, so we didn't have to deal with.
Oh, that's awesome.
The main line, so it was for us. It was very.
But you did see one of the greatest stand-up comics of all time, which is awesome.
And he was great. Really liked his material a lot for there. I'm sure.
No mention of Will Smith.
He only thing he said was I'm all right. I'm okay.
Yeah. Because he said when he comes up, decides to talk about it, it's gonna be funny.
Yeah.
But it's later.
Yeah, it wasn't it might be more in the when he actually tapes it or something, but that's basically all. You just addressed it saying. The first thing he said was just I'm okay.
Yeah, that's that's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. So we've got, we've already saw a handful of shows this year. Most of the shows I've seen has been with my daughter, and she just I love. I think we talked about how music can make you feel. I'm convinced my daughter has no feelings whatsoever towards anything except music.
Right.
It's the only thing she loves. I'm convinced she doesn't like most things, but she loves music, and she's very passionate, which is probably she's a funny kid, and she's very hardworking, and she's got a lot of good traits, but I think one of the most traits I'm proud of is that she can latch on to music. I've taken her to see Louis Tomlinson, Harry Styles, I didn't get to take her to the Wallows, but I did take her to this Role Model, and she still cries when they play the song that she wants to hear. And I hope she never loses that, because that's awesome. But as a family, we're going to go see. We did go see the Lumineers, but we are going to go see Judah and the Lion coming up. And then we're also going to, and I'm leading into a question I'm going to ask you if you're familiar with the band that I'm going to go see here in a few weeks. But one of the other things, me and my wife are going to go see Wu-Tang Clan coming up.
Yeah, nice.
So we're excited about that.
Yeah.
But
And Nas.
yeah, and Nas, and I love Nas. But on the 24th, a Sunday, my brother and me, one of our lifelong favorite, not just favorite bands, but one of our favorite albums of all time, is the double live album Waiting for Columbus from Little Feat. And it's the anniversary of that album. You familiar with like Dixie Chicken and all that stuff? Well, they're going to play that album in its entirety at the Factory. Now, I've yet to go to the Factory, and I know they're way older. I mean, it's 30 years old, but I can't wait to go see this album live. And I'm excited to go to the Factory because I haven't been in there. I'm sure you've been in there.
Yeah, a couple different times.
What's it like?
It's beautiful, man. It's
It was kind of built, for those that don't know, the pageant's like one of the more famous venues in St. Louis, and they were the conceit of its build was supposed to be Pageant Chesterfield or Pageant West.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, you could draw that comparison for sure. Like it's set in that kind of like, where the balcony and it's all seated up in the balcony. There's when you first walk in, there's like the lobby area where like the merch and the bar. There's a bar out there, and there's plenty of bars inside the actual performance area. But there's like a nice little kind of lounge area before you walk into the venue.
How many people? Do you know how much it holds? Because they get some big acts now.
I feel like it's I think it like somebody said the cap's around like 3,500 or something. So it's like
bigger than the pageant.
Bigger than the pageant.
So that's why you can get big act. It's when a big act wants an intimate venue,
right?
Then still sell a bunch of seats.
I went to see Allman Betts band.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that
Family Revival down there, and that was a seated show. And
the Little Feat one is a seated, so they have all the floor has seats on it,
and which is super nice because like the seats that they have are like oversized, especially for guys like
me and you.
Or like it's nice to have a seat we actually fit in.
And my brother is a small guy in a sense that he's 6'2" and 180 pounds, so only small in comparison.
So I was glad there wasn't like some just a folding chair kind of thing.
Yeah, that's all.
Nice.
And I'm not shitting on them because I've enjoyed concerts there, but like Centene Park, Music Park, when they do the seats, they're just folding chairs, and they stack them too close together.
Right. These you actually got some room.
That's awesome.
And but I went to see I also went to see David Spade down there, and that was.
Well, how was that?
It was a good show.
I haven't even got to watch his Netflix special, and I like him. I like his. And I'll be honest too. One of my favorite podcasts lately has been Fly on the Wall.
Great show, yeah.
And they had Smigel on this week. I mean, that's been as entertaining as any podcast I think out right now.
I was kind of surprised at how good of an interview he really is. Like Spades actually does a pretty good job with the show. Like,
oh yeah, I think it helps that they're talking to people they've worked with most of their career.
Right.
And there's sometimes I do feel like Spade has a weird timed comment, but he's a stand-up comic. That's what he does. And then there's sometimes I feel like that they have a tough time getting back on track.
Yeah.
But I think the best time is when they get their host. And for those that don't know, Fly on the Wall, and we've talked about on this with me and Tom, is an episode with David Spade and Dana Carvey, and they specifically talk about SNL with former writers, hosts, guests, things of that nature. And so when they get distracted and go off topic, I think I like it even more because that means the guest is having a good time.
Right.
Like, I think the Jim Downey episode was my favorite episode because he's one of the better writers. And then I'm not all the way through Smigel, and I love Robert Smigel. I think he's brilliant. But, he brings his Triumph dog for a little bit during the episode. So he's a little more space all over the place. But, God, I mean, you talk about, too, speaking of Chris Rock, they get Chris Rock, they get Adam Sandler, they get the biggest names. Tom Hanks has been on it. So that's a great episode. But a great podcast.
So when all the chairs are out of there, though, like once you walk into the actual performance area, the whole room is like the pit. It's like the whole floor.
Yeah, so they have the option to make it a rock show or in my case, what I'm gonna go see, seeing a 60, 70-year-old band.
There's like slight tiers towards the back towards the bar, but like the pageant, there's like 3 levels before you get to the floor. So it's like it's kind of nice that this is like once you're in, you're already on the concrete. You're ready. It's like So It's I liked it a lot. And like there's like this really nice centerpiece chandelier that's like gears, like
Yeah, that's kind of the whole gimmick on the outside of the building too, because it's a factory.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I feel like honestly, like, and especially here, like, I mean, we got some really nice, Fox and Steve.
Yeah.
So we got some nice theaters, but like when you walk into here, it's like I feel like Jurassic Park. He's like, we spared no expense.
Yeah,
it's all that. Like,
And it was an expensive venue to build.
Everything is like top notch. Like everything's really fancy, and
they're making that whole area a destination area for music fans and tourists and stuff. They're turning, like, with Main Event there, and they're going to make that eventually. That mall's going to turn into something when all the stores are gone, and then obviously Top Golf's there. All capped off by that. They're just, the only thing they're missing is a bigger hotel closer.
right.
I know they're the valley, at the end of the valley they have something, but it's a really cool. I mean, it's a music park, which is Centene, and that are all both relatively new, almost kind of the same age in a sense. It's cool that we're getting music out here this way, more music out here this way.
It was so I went. My first experience over there was they did like a soft opening for friends and family thing.
Yeah.
And my buddies, Sean Cannon's Voodoo Players, were the band of the night, and they post. I saw it late on Facebook, and it was like a free event if you just got.
Oh, that's awesome!
You had to get a ticket through Ticketmaster, but it was it was a free thing.
That way you couldn't just come to the door and walk in. Yeah.
And so I was like, well, shit, I can do this. Like I got the ticket. And I'm sitting on my couch, and I'm like, well, they play in half an hour. I was like, I can make that. I'm like,
yeah.
I was like, it's 15 minutes down.
That's awesome.
So that was like, super nice that I compared to driving like 45 minutes to or whatever to go to the pageant show.
And it's like I said, it's a cool for us to have, like, for one of the things we do, especially with my daughter when she drags me, whether it's to the Loop, to the pageant, or things like that. We do. She likes to get there earlier because she has to get barricade. Yeah. So that usually means for some of these bands, like for instance Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson, we were there 5 hours early. But but you had to. I mean, Harry Styles might be the most famous musician on the planet right now, and we got there 4.5 hours early so she could wait in line for 2 hours to get merch. We didn't have to worry about waiting to get tickets or seats because we had assigned seats in that one, but she wanted merch. And it was a 2-hour wait to get merch. And then for Louis Tomlinson, it was cold, and they had both doors open for the pageant, and it wrapped all the way around the block and met in the back. I mean, you know what that's a long line.
For sure.
But what I'm saying, though, so when we go down, we always go down extra early to where we're going, whether it's to the Loop or downtown, and we'll hit a good restaurant or something. Well, that little Chesterfield spot, they kind of gave you like an extended date night thing right there, whether it is Top Golf or Main Event or something. For those that aren't from St. Louis, it's a pretty cool thing to look into. If you have a band that says it's the factory, go down there a couple hours early to give yourself time to have fun.
Yeah, they got, a lot of good shows coming through there. Like you're saying, they bring in a lot of like larger acts and stuff. One I'm bummed I missed was like they had the Roots in there.
Oh, I definitely wanted to go see the Roots, and I'm upset about that too.
That would have been a cool night.
I mean, Phrenology and the Tipping Hat are two of my favorite albums, hip hop albums of all time. And luckily for me though, Wu-Tang's Enter the 36 Chambers is one of my other, and I get to go see them. Yeah. So minus ODB.
All right. But there's
unless he's going to be a hologram, which will be awesome.
They were supposed to have that Parkway Drive was supposed to be in there, and they were like a big metal band. So like I don't know, they're bringing a lot of good acts, and like I said, Little Feat, and so I don't know. It's a cool spot though for sure. If you get a chance to go. Well,
before we sign off, what's anything else you want to talk about? Anything at all you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to kind of say I think we were supposed to do this forever ago. I think we were talked about going to see Jackass together.
Again, Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And Ghostbusters, it fizzled out the day of because you had stuff going on, and then Jackass was just a weekday that was hard for us. But what are you thinking now? What's in your crawl?
I don't know. I mean, I definitely want to do. I think we should have some more date nights to go watch some movies. I'm in.
I mean, I had a blast when we went and saw My Posse in Effect.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Except for that one guy that was playing bass.
Oh, yeah. What's his name again?
I don't know.
He's got a podcast.
Yeah.
A very exceptionally good podcast called the Matt F. Basler Podcast.
When they covered me in toilet paper.
Yeah, you did. You got blasted on that one. It was good. And they gave away Christmas presents that was like boxes of Cheerios. Yeah, I mean, I would tell you Love and Thunder, but I'm going to be gone. Probably maybe the worst timing for my MCU life in the whole lifespan of the MCU. I always go see them opening weekend or close thereof. It opened today as we record this. I can't go see it today. Tomorrow, I mean, I could go see it by myself, which I do. I'm not above that. I'll go see a movie by myself. I did that with the Batman.
I watched Jackass by myself.
Oh, yeah, that was a hilarious movie. But tomorrow, my daughters are going to Six Flags, so I won't go see it. And then we play volleyball tomorrow night, and then I got to somehow come home, sleep for 5 hours, and then drive to Denver. And we're getting no chance to see it in Denver.
Right.
So, but
the funny thing about Jackass, real quick, was that I was like the youngest person in the crowd.
Really?
There was a lot of.
Now, how old are you now?
I'm 37.
Okay, and I'm 44.
But like people, I'm talking like there was a group that were like probably 60s or something.
What were they thinking?
No idea. I mean, and they didn't.
You talk about the most dicks per minute in the history of cinema.
And I laughed my ass off, but they like didn't like make a sound, and I'm like, "What are you doing in this movie?"
Are you
like,
movie critics? What are you?
No idea, but I was like, they didn't. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe they enjoyed it, but they didn't. I'm over there just cracking up, and they didn't seem to have as much fun as I did.
Both my wife and I laughed our asses off. Now, I will tell you that we might have been something other than drunk. But we laughed our asses off at that. Man, yeah, I think it's great. So, yeah, if we come up with anything, I mean, obviously, I get busy because of the kids, and you get busy because, 1,000 episodes. But we'll always try something. We got stuff coming up. We can figure it out. Especially when it gets colder, it seems like it lightens up a little bit. So I'm game on. But let's tell everybody real quick. Again, let's remind them, 1,000 episodes, 8 years. I like to say 8 years, 1,000 episodes, and countless bands in the making. You've got your July 23rd, 7 o'clock, off-Broadway, STL.com. $10 in advance, $14 at the door, plus you youngins get to pay $17 or $13.
Right.
Or $13. So it's really good cost savings for you kids. Name the bands again for me.
The Manis Brothers, Old Capitol Square Dance Club, Samantha Clemens, Ben Diesel, and Egan's Rats.
And I'm going to tag them all in the post, and then tell people where they can just go to find you.
You can find me at rockpaperpodcast.com on the socials, and you can find the show streaming wherever you're listening to fine podcasting just like this.
And you can find him at almost any good local show on a Saturday night, give it a go.
I like to party.
That's right. I've seen it. We had a fairly good time. I don't know that we got tore up when we went and saw My Posse in Effect, but I had a good buzz when I left there.
Yeah. We had some good burger over at King and...
Three Kings.
Three Kings.
And when now my daughter, because I went there with you, so I took the family one time. My oldest daughter, anytime we go to the Loop, she's very much a creature of habit, and they have gluten-free buns. So I've now eaten Three Kings maybe 5 times since you and I did, and had those delicious.
Now you're a regular, huh?
Yeah. Now I walk in and they're like, Jeremy, your spot's open. But I have nothing else for us tonight. My wife's going to want me to go upstairs and cook dinner. It's Brenner tonight, so I'm excited. But go check out Shane. Go check out the show, and check out all the artists that we talked about, and all the artists, and just listen to the show so you can find some other people that eventually are going to be super awesome and popular, and they should be already. So
yeah, man.
All right.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Oh, you're welcome, buddy.
We're playing the music.